So why are these regions of Ukraine going to be holding referendums about joining the Russian Federation? There are reasons for this, of course, and I wanted to go over those reasons. Why are they making such an extreme step, and why now? In the past, over the past years, since the Ukrainian Civil War started with the coup in 2014, the self-declared republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, who now have some recognition, voted on at least one occasion to join the Russian Federation, and Russia said no. They would not annex those territories. They insisted that they remain part of Ukraine under these different agreements that Russia negotiated with their German and French and Ukrainian counterparts. This time it looks like Russia is not only prepared to accept these votes and annex these territories, but it would seem that they are behind the decision, at least partly behind the decision for these referendums to be held. This has kind of come out of the blue, it's been suspected, will Russia do something like this at some point, but until now, Donetsk and Luhansk have been operating as independent republics allied with Russia, and Zaporizhia and Kherson have been simply occupied territories who have for months been talking about and preparing for referendums on independence. All of a sudden now that has changed. We're not talking about a independence referendum that was put on hold when the massive Ukrainian counteroffensive started at the end of August. That was put on hold. Now they're talking about it again, only this time it's about joining the Russian Federation. No more talk of independence. Here's a big thing that happened. I think people in these regions are scared. They saw what happened with the Ukrainian counterattacks. Kharkiv was another oblast that was somewhat under Russian control. They had a pro-Russian administration there, and I read some interesting things on some of these blogs where people were very upset, of course, about how Russia admitted defeat and withdrew from the Kharkiv region. And I saw quotes there of what the officials had said beforehand, assuring the people Russia is here to stay. We are, essentially going to be, we're going to have this kind of administration. We're going to have this Russian protection. We're going to have, this cooperation, this collaboration with Russia, and the Russians are here to stay. Well, that didn't turn out very good for those people who thought that way, who said those things, who counted on that kind of situation. When Russia, of course, did not stay, they pulled out and were beaten, however you want to call it, by the Ukrainian counteroffensive. Now those territories came very quickly under Ukrainian authority, under the authority of the Kiev government. Thousands of people fled, and the Ukrainian government announced that they would begin operations to find the collaborators, find the people who, whatever their terms for it, they've a term that gets thrown around are cleansing operations, how they go in and knock on doors, find out, get information, who's going to tell on who, and they deal with the people who they deem to have been traitors. It's a pretty tough situation for the people there who thought that they were now living under a new kind of system. And I think that, along with the intensified Ukrainian bombardments of occupied cities, cities of Zaporizhia, Kherson, and the Donbass republics, intensified shelling, rocket attacks, lots and lots of civilian casualties, and assassination squads going into these regions and killing ministers, killing people like head of the Ministry of Sports, prosecutors, just killing people in government, just not necessarily military targets, just people in government getting killed by Ukrainian assassination squads. That's really put everybody on edge, and now they want some kind of surety. You have to kind of, to see things from the eyes of these people in these regions, they're kind of SOL, They are part of republics that nobody recognizes. When the only people who recognize you are Russia, Syria, North Korea, you're in a pretty precarious state. And the people of, that's particularly talking about Donetsk and Luhansk, the people of Zaporizhia and Kherson are in a similar situation where they have no friends internationally. Ukraine attacks them, bombard them, they send in these kill squads to kill public people, officials, just people who work for the government, and there is no sympathy for no condemnation from the rest of the world. So these people are vulnerable on their own. They do not want to be back under the Kiev government. They have they have put up tens of thousands of soldiers to fight on the Russian side of this conflict, and they have lost thousands and thousands of soldiers. There is no future for them with Kiev. But what future do they have? There is no path forward being offered by anybody, so I think they're trying to find some kind of future, some kind of stability, and they see that as not just being allied with Russia. Now they're a little worried about how Russia may or may not stick with them, and now they want to be part of Russia. And it looks like Russia, for their part, the Putin administration, seem to be, at this point, in agreement with accepting these territories and annexing them. It seems like they are to a degree, behind these referendums and are prepared to accept the results. I think we all know how the results are going to go by, whether it's the will of the people or not. It's going to go in favor of joining Russia, and personally I think the will of the people is towards joining Russia, as I laid out before. I don't think these people have many options in life, much hope for a future. They're in a very unstable situation, and it looks like Russia is prepared to annex them. And this plays into Russia's war strategy. I think, we've all been wondering, how will Russia react after the big Ukrainian counteroffensives? And, well, they are calling up reservists, a partial mobilization, which I'll be talking about in another video, and they're going to be using these referendums to declare these areas of Ukraine to no longer be parts of Ukraine. They will now be part of Russia, and they are going to defend them. And it seems to me that Russia is, we may be seeing kind of the beginning of the end of the war, at least as far as Russia's offensive initiatives go. I believe they will continue pushing until they have all of the territory of Donetsk under their control, and likely all of the territory of Zaporizhia. What's left would be the city of Zaporizhia. Once those two oblasts are entirely under Russian control, they may stop there. That may be the extent of their military operation. With these called up reservists, with this increased army, they will capture these territories and then defend them. And that may be the end of it as far as Russia is concerned. Or there's a possibility, though less likely in my opinion, that they would try to take some other territories too. Mykolaiv, Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, and possibly even Kharkiv. These are names of cities that people have had their eye on since the beginning of this war, thinking that these may be also on Russia's list of territories that they want to control. Who knows? I think for sure it's going to be Donetsk, the remaining territories of Donetsk and Zaporizhia, likely Zaporizhia, for sure Donetsk. And then beyond that, I don't know. They may try to stabilize the front line and just hold it and wait until some point in the future, whether it's months or years, when someone will negotiate with them and they can kind of start to receive acceptance of the new normal on their own terms. That seems to be what's happening. Just being honest and pragmatic, I understand why the peoples of these occupied territories want to go this way. We're kind of in a post-rule of law world where, and Russia didn't start this world. They have certainly agitated and escalated, but rules were being thrown out the window a long time ago, even in Ukraine and certainly in other countries, in Syria, Serbia, Iraq, been a lot of tearing up that rule book and throwing it out, and a lot of people feeling very vulnerable, very uncertain about their futures, and looking to find their way forward in this crazy new world. So that's what's happening. We're going to see what Ukraine tries to do about this. Yep, unfortunately there is a pretty bad war going on. People scared for their survival, scared for their future, and taking to violence. So yeah, things are tough. The world's can be a dark place. There's a lot of good in the world, but a lot depends on where you are. Man, God have mercy. There's so many people who ended up in a tough situation that they did not deserve. They weren't asking for it. It just happened to them, and now they are in a tough situation. Ukraine was never a top country in the first place. The people had it rough there, had to struggle, faced a lot of difficulties. It was hard to do the right thing, hard to be successful, and they've been kicked very hard. And man, a lot of people fleeing, going all over the place. We need to do our part. Anyone we come across who needs help, we've got to be their neighbor. Show love, show compassion, show mercy, whether they're from Ukraine or some of these other places. A lot of people in very tough situations, Yemen, Ethiopia, a lot of refugees from Mexico and Central America who are, people facing violence, uncertainty, trying to get to a better place. A lot of people need help. A lot of people just need a hand, and I don't care what you think of refugees, what you think of migration, borders, all that. I think you've got to look to the higher authority. You got to look to the laws of nature, the laws put down by God and reiterated and emphasized by Jesus Christ. That is a higher law than any of man's laws, and we've got to take care of people. Got to do what's right. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Bye for now.